Welcome to the Confident Parent Podcast, where we want you to feel confident in raising kids who have a thriving relationship with Jesus. I'm Joshua Humba, the children's pastor at Oak Creek Assembly of God and the father of now 3 wonderful kids with my wife, Stephanie. In this episode, we interview Jamie and Joy Herbst on how in the world they raise perfect boys and help you feel like you got this. What's up? Welcome back to another episode. Man, this is going to be a fun one. This is a complimentary episode to the last 2 episodes. So we talked about how to raise perfect girls in the last 2 episodes. And if you have daughters and you haven't listened to those, man, you should absolutely listen to that interview with the Sosas. That is great. And today we're interviewing Jamie and Joy Herbst. He's a deacon here at a church. They have wonderful boys, and we're learning about how to have perfect sons. So I am so excited that they get to share their pearls of wisdom with us. And that for me, I have 2 sons. How can I make sure that my boys love Jesus and turn out to be as good as your boys? So, Jamie, Joy, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Yeah, we don't have perfect sons.
Yeah, let's get that out of the way.
Just get it out of the way, yep. Do our best, and we're all like, we just get by grace and God's grace in our lives and our parenting the same way. But I'm Jamie, and this is Joy, and we've been married. We just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary last week.
Congrats.
So that's a cool milestone, and we have 4 boys. They are, should we list them? Jordan is 20. He'll be 21 later on this month. Nathan is 19. And he is attending college as well. And then Brady is 16, will be 17 in January. And Chase is 13 and will be 14 in the fall. So, yeah, we're all teenagers now, 2 adults mixed in.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've gotten to know Brady the most in the last year. And just, man, love that dude. He is so awesome. Total nerd. Like me.
Yes.
He's so great.
And embraces that.
Yes. Whether it's technology or superheroes or just all of it.
Absolutely.
And then Nathan works at the church currently as a custodian, and so it's been fun to get to know him even more and talk with him. And and Chase, was his kids pastor for a long time. Man, just great family.
Yeah.
You guys are great.
Thank you.
So 25 years. How did you guys come to know the Lord?
So speaking for me, we both grew up in the church. So we've known each other since I was 10, like right around that age. We were around the similar age when we started attending church together, kind of our families.
Yeah, and I think we grew up in church. I don't remember a time that I wasn't in church. From the time that I was born, I think, till now, So, but I think I became a Christian when I was in elementary school, but my faith became my own once I got into high school. And so it changed.
That's probably both our story. It's interesting when you'd ask, like, when did we have that salvation experience? And it's hard for us to pinpoint because I probably did like 10 times when I was 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 or whatever, right? And I just grew up knowing Jesus. And I think similarly for both of us, you enter the teenage years and you start like integrating it into your life and learning how to live it out on a daily basis. And that's when we can really point to getting serious about it and understanding everything involved. Yeah.
That's fun. How did you guys meet then?
Yeah, at Calvary Assembly of God.
Which is now Honey Creek.
Yep.
Yeah.
I kind of grew up, my mom took us to Bayview Assembly of God, and we just wanted something closer to home and moved there. And then I knew Joy early on because she was the pretty one. And so then we just kind of grew up through youth group together and everything. We're really good friends and always have been, just known each other a really long time and started dating in college.
Yeah, we didn't start dating until college. So we were really good friends all the way through high school. And then once we got to college, we started dating.
Yeah.
Well, we were friends officially for like a year, and then we started dating.
Yeah. So we've got all these crazy teenage experiences outside of dating and then started dating in college. Yeah.
That's the way to do it, right? You're friends and then you start dating.
Yes. So it's cliche, but we were best friends before we started dating.
Yeah.
So
And
so I'm
now,
married to my best friend.
25 years later. Yeah.
Yes.
It's worked out really well.
Absolutely.
That's great. Now, can you tell us a little bit about what you do for your career? You stay home, which is nice.
I do. I stay home, and I homeschooled my kids all the way through since Jordan was like 4. So now he's turning 21. So a long time.
Yeah.
Now the kids are finally transitioning. Chase is our last one, and he's in virtual school.
Yeah.
But I went to Evangel along with Jamie, and I was an education major. And so I had taught for a few years, and then we decided that I would stay home and raise our kids and school. And
and we're going to get into that because that seems like it was a great choice for your family.
It was. It was kind of difficult at the time, just kind of deciding if I wanted to stay home and what that would look like, because it was down to one income. But God was so faithful in providing, and we knew it was the right thing, so we stepped in, and He has provided all for every need that we've had, and it's been great to see that.
Yeah, always.
That's great. Sure. That's a testimony.
Yeah,
it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I started out in an IT career, and then have moved up, and now I'm an IT project manager and a process owner at a company I've been with a little over 20 years now. So I've had a lot of, we've been really blessed that I've had really good opportunities in the company, and
stable.
Yeah. All along, God has taken care of us. We talk about when after 9/11, in the fall of 2001, Joy was pregnant with Jordan, with our first, and he was born in September, like the third week of September, right after, like 10 days after 9/11. And at the time, I was in IT working in an architectural firm, and we had just decided in May that Joy was going to quit teaching so that she could stay home with Jordan. And I lost my job in November, like right after 9/11. And so here we are with a newborn at home, a 2-month-old, right? Wow. And no income or anything. And we're just like, Lord, you have to provide and help us figure this out, because we thought this is what you've told us to do. We were listening. And just the miraculous provision for us. And I had another job by the end of January, within a couple of months, and it's the company that I'm still with today. So just seeing how God guided all of that, even through tough circumstances, is really, really cool.
So the Lord will provide.
Absolutely.
He will make a way.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's good. And we haven't even dived into anything. Dived. Now, both of you are really involved in the church. And if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, probably have seen you around a little bit. But for those that have not seen you or don't know you, could you explain your different roles? We'll start with you, Joy. Sure. Tell us what you do at the church.
I'm a women's ministry director, and so I get to have Bible studies for women. I get to have events, and we just love seeing God grow their relationship and draw them closer to Him. And it's just been such an honor to serve in that role and see God move through the years. And
you're so detailed, which is it's impressive, incredible to watch. The detail you put into these events and these women events. Wow. Wow.
Well, I love it. And I really feel God has called me to that. And so it's been exciting to see Him move in that.
Yeah.
Jamie? You serve multiple hats.
And we teach together, too.
That's right.
So, plug for our Sunday school class. Yeah, first. I call it Sunday school. Yeah, Sunday morning.
9:30 a.m.
Down the youth chapel. Yeah, exactly. And then I also have served as a worship leader and on worship teams and stuff around the church for quite a while. And then I also serve on the board of deacons. I've been on the board for 9 years.
9 years as a deacon.
Yeah.
And you've done a great job. Can you tell us a little bit about your portfolio as a deacon? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. So I'm an IT guy. So like the IT and the systems, sound and lighting and different things kind of fall under my portfolio as well. Kind of a liaison between those different teams. We have a fantastic IT team of volunteers here that does a really great job. And I'm privileged to work with them and see the job that they do all the time and keeping everything running the way that they do. And then the Sunday morning groups is also in my portfolio. I'm really passionate about teaching and touch base with them a lot and make sure we're all on the same page and anything that I can do there as well. So those are just a couple. Yeah. You guys you're a power couple in the church. You do a lot. You put out a lot. Thanks.
And we were really blessed because of it. And you have perfect sons.
Yes. Got it. Yeah. Absolutely perfect.
Which we mean, what we mean when we say perfect is that clearly all 4 of your boys love Jesus, right? You look at them, you watch them, and it's clearly these boys have a relationship with Jesus. They're not just doing it because that's what you do as a family. Even Chase, your youngest, it's like clearly these boys have a relationship with Jesus, which is the most important, right?
Yeah.
They're good boys. Like they have good relationship dynamics with other teenagers, with even with Brady, right? 16-year-old with me, an adult, and be able to have like great conversation skills. It's really cool, right? That's great. They're outgoing. They serve in multiple, all 4 of them. They serve in multiple roles in the church. Like they're not just like stuck into, I only do worship team or I only do this. This is my one thing. Like they're all over the place. And that is cool that they can find different areas like that to serve in. Yeah. And it's clear that all 4 of them are on a path to success. I mean, you still have 2 that are still in high school, that age, but it's clear that they're on the path towards success, and we believe that God's going to lead them and continue on that path. Yeah. But that's what we mean when we say perfect. And that's what I want my boys to be like. I want my boys to have all of those characteristics. And so
you're doing a good job. So far, so good.
Thanks. But how did that happen? How did you go 4 for 4? Is it by accident and, it just happened? Or were there intentional things?
Everyday grace, right? I mean, it is. You don't really. It's just one step at a time along the way, and a lot of prayer, because we never for a moment sit here and we're not taking credit for anything. I mean, it's all God. We pray. We've always prayed and always hoped and said, we just want to set them on the right course and hope that they make good decisions. And not just now, they've got a whole life of decisions ahead, so that we could equip them however we can to make the best ones. At some point as a parent, regardless of what we talk about, there's only so much you can do. You can't make your kid do anything. Right. And so, just do the best you can. And pray a lot.
I was going to say, I think we prioritize church as well. And that was really important in them growing up here. And it wasn't that we had to come to church or that we would come once in a while. It was that we get to go to church on Sundays and Wednesdays. And it was really important for their spiritual development, drawing closer to the Lord. And then, just the friendships that they made as well. And that's what really, they wanted to come for that. And they were excited. And it's nice to have godly friends, those that are, draw them closer to the Lord rather than, other friends. So,
and it seems to be that the through line, whatever child is on this path like your boys, church is the priority in your family. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was it like growing up, when they were 7 years old, or when you're,
I mean, we grew up as church kids, both of us. I was one of those kids that my summers were, hey, I'll go hang around the youth pastor and help trim bushes or whatever is going on. Just because it's fun. I thought it was fun, and we wanted the same kind of passion with our kids too. So we've just raised them around it. And we've always made a deliberate decision to not, separate the two. Like, hey, you've got your own thing and now this is church and it's just a separate thing. We just integrate it. And part of it is just we just enjoy serving. And we've just always, there's been that atmosphere. I think Joy and I both in our ministries really love serving and teaching them that no matter what it is, like you've said before, that it's not that, hey, I do this or I do this and that's all I do. But just serving in whatever way that you can, pitching in wherever you can. And it's fun doing it together.
Yeah, and I think it's a little crazy when they're younger, when you have littles. Just getting ready. Now, Jamie was on worship team at that time, so I had to bring all 4 kids by myself. And that was a little bit crazy.
Sometimes they sat in worship rehearsals with me and climbed on the pews. So give me a little bit of credit.
Yes. That was me as a little kid.
That was all 4 of them, probably.
Yeah, for sure.
But, getting trial and error, learning, getting late to church because someone couldn't find a shoe or someone couldn't find something. And then, learning, okay, well, we have to have everything ready the night before. So everybody go get, what you're going to wear and let's make sure we have it here because otherwise we're not, we would be 20 minutes late to getting here. Yeah. And a little frazzled when we got here as well. So, but, this is what we're going to do. And so getting it ready the night before. And then I think talking to them.
Can I pause you real quick?
Absolutely.
I don't want to keep going back to the Sosas, but it's funny. That is exactly what the Sosas did as well with their girls. They'd planned the night before, right? And so to see these patterns, you have to, right? Yes. To see these patterns of they prioritize church. We're always serving. We're always going to be there together. Yeah. We're going to make sure we have our clothes picked out the night before. Yep. There's these common. It just seems like this is the recipe right here. Yeah. So I'm sorry for interrupting.
No. Teamwork. We've said that in our family. We're a team. We do things as a team. Yeah. So it's why when we talk about what we do around church, some people listening probably see me around Joy stuff. That's kind of because we're always pitching in and helping out wherever we can, and it's just something we do. It's not like, hey, we're going to do this so that we can go and have fun later on. It's like this is just part of it. We just, as a family, we just do these things together. And from the time they were little.
Right, that they enjoy church, that we come to church not because we have to, but we really enjoy being there. We love being in God's house. We love, this is, the family, the church family has become like a second family to us. And so how can we invest in this as well? How can we all get involved? And so we can, be a part of what the church is doing. So.
Yeah. Now you chose homeschool. Mm-hmm. What was the reason for that for you guys?
Well, we really felt I had never seen that. That was never a part of the plan.
Mm-hmm. It really wasn't. It really wasn't.
And then I met a friend who talked about homeschooling, and I began to talk to Jamie about it. And our oldest son actually couldn't go to school. His birthday is in September, so you would have had to wait another year. And he really wanted to start. He had friends that were starting, and so we looked into it and thought, I think we could do this for a year. And so we started it and we loved it and he loved it. And so Nathan was actually at the same time, even though he was younger, was learning to read along with Jordan. And so we just loved that dynamic of spending time with with our kids and really being able to meet their needs where they were, so we could, if they loved this subject, we could give them more time in that subject. And if they needed more help in this, we could help them more with this. It was really individualized, and we love that about it. So
it was kind of, from the beginning, like it took a while for me to be convinced, and we just decided from the beginning that we're going to just take it year by year. And if we think that any year is just not working, or there's, they'd be better suited in a different environment, we were willing to do that. And we always have been. So one of the things, it wasn't so much, let's say for us, it wasn't so much to like keep them out of the world and protect them type of thing. There are elements in there, but it was we want to pour into them, and we can give them specialized education. Joy is, trained in it. She's got a BA in education. And so she was able to do such an amazing job.
You don't need that
correct.
In school.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That let's see how this goes. And I think we could make this work. And as we got into it, we saw our kids were learning and picking up on it, and we really enjoyed it. And then there's, of course, the social aspect that you always consider that goes into a little bit. We're not, Joy and I both grew up going to public schools our whole life. So we know the pros and the cons. We know the importance of some of the things that you learn in an environment like that you can. But we also, without setting out to protect them, to wrap them in this protective shell a little bit, we've seen benefits in that, like we see confidence in them in different ways that it may have been a little harder to come to that in some of the school environments, some of the things that you deal with in school all the time. So little side benefits that we've seen that, hey, you can be yourself exactly how you are. You don't have to prove anything to anybody else. You just be who God has created you to be. And I think that's helped them in a lot of ways to grow up with a lot of confidence and assurance of who they are and their identity. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. I feel very strongly about school, especially today, and finding the right option for your child, right? That there's the right fit for your child. And so, I'm really impressed with how well you've done with homeschooling, right? And your kids this is part of the recipe of why your kids have done well. And
some of it, like you say, it's not for everybody, not only parents, but kids as well. I can imagine we've had all different levels of engagement with our 4 kids, and at times they're super plugged in and in the sweet spot, and you're like, this is perfect for them. Yeah. And other times you're like, why did we do this? This is crazy, Yeah. And there's, hills and valleys a little bit, but if it fits for you, there are really cool options and really good ways of doing it. So,
And we've chosen private for Chloe for now. And, she's now going in first grade. And after the first year, like, absolutely, this was the best choice. I'm so glad we did it. And you got to find what's the best choice for your kids.
Absolutely.
Right, to make it work.
Yep.
So can we talk a little bit about the balance that you guys had with giving your children the responsibility and also the consequences that come with freedom and choices, but also like, no. I'm mom and dad. I'm in charge here, and you're going to do what I say.
Oh, sure.
How did that balance go as they grew up? When did you start to let things go? What did you see with different children? And how did you begin to trust them to kind of live their own lives? Yeah. And it turned out to be so awesome.
I can go. All right. We've just always raised them. We've been very open. Like, we talk through things. So like, there's very little of like, hey, it's just, that's the way it is. And you just listen and don't ask questions type of thing. Just pretty much everything is open for conversation in our house. And it like always has been. We've always talked through things. And so I think that's led to a very thinking through our choices and thinking through decisions that we make, what we choose to like consume with media, what we choose to do, the friends we hang out with, the things we choose to do. We just are always talking through that and like considering the different angles and things like that. So they can see that, we're giving them advice and we're raising them the way that we think is the best way, but that there are reasons behind it. So we can give stories from our own life of, hey, we faced a similar situation. This is what happened to us. Ultimately, then some of them, especially as they get older, we leave to them. And some of them we just make for them still the same way because they're our kids, Yeah. And so it's finding the balance between the two, I think, right? And
I think, even with what we watch, Jamie and I are really particular about what we watch. We always look into shows or movies before we just consume it. We don't just go in, with our eyes closed and this is what we're going to watch. And so we would explain that to our kids as well. Like, we're going to let you watch this, or we're not going to let you watch this, and this is why. And we do this, and we would explain we do the same thing as adults, and this is an important skill to have, that you need to look into this and these are the reasons why, not just because you can't watch it. There's a story behind.
Yeah, sometimes there's just, these are words we just don't say, and that's just the rule from later on, but other things like, hey, it may seem like this particular scene in the movie, it's no big deal and it flashes by or whatever, but sometimes that can plant seeds in your heart that you don't want there. And, there are things that are best to avoid. Joyce brings up media, right, and different things like that. There are just so many different cool things out there that you do not have to be like, well, if I don't watch this, there'll be nothing for me, Right. I mean, there's always good alternatives to things, and more than enough to fill our entertainment time. And we continually bring that up. We say, well, this just doesn't, we try to exemplify it the same way. They know what we're watching. And we say, we chose not to watch that because we looked it up and it has some garbage in it and it's just not for us. And we just try to talk through those things with them. Yeah.
I like that you bring that up about, well, if I can't watch this, then what am I going to watch? Because as a boy, and especially with the comic book movie stuff and the superhero, that stuff, it feels like you got to be all in with all of it.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's like you have to protect them and you have to choose and be clear in why we're not doing this.
Yeah. And also, but like you say, also make sure that they understand the why. Right. A story that we talk about, we went to Evangel University and I knew guys on my floor when I got there that you could tell their parents had just set down rules and not been a part of the decision making with them. And they got to college and they were free from home and it was a free for all. They did whatever they wanted, got in trouble, went out to parties, the whole thing, all the time. And it's just because they were so protected and didn't understand why. And so, we've just always said we're just going to talk through all of it. Just be very open about everything. This is the reason we choose to do this. This is the reason we don't. And I think that helps a lot. It's just there's that constant communication going on.
And it seems like a lot of the times that happens with homeschool boys, right?
Yeah.
Where it's a very strict Christian home. But that has not been the case for you. That you've done the homeschool route, but your boys aren't wild party animals, right? And they're not. And then even when they are released to have the freedom to choose to do their own things, they're good boys still. Yeah. And they still make great choices. So.
And we're super just thankful for that. That's not something anybody can guarantee, but we're just really blessed to look back and say, thank you, Lord, for your grace and your hand of protection over them so far.
Yeah. What's the dynamics been like between four boys, right? Arguments, fighting, wrestling, name calling, punching each other.
All of it.
Yeah. How did you get the family to be so tight, and for them to enjoy each other, right? That the younger ones look up to the older ones, and the older ones have a great relationship with the younger ones. How did you balance that and create a great culture in your home?
I think one of the things that we did early on is we just always have dinner together every night, even if it's something that we get out, we eat out, we bring it home and we eat together and we have that conversation. We laugh together. We schedule game nights together. We made the family a priority and having fun together when we did stuff, and that has just seemed to really enjoy each other's company because they laughed together. They had inside jokes then that they could share with each other, and they got along pretty well. Now, not all the time. We had to work through, especially when they were little, we had to work through a lot of issues. And he touched me, he took my toy, he did this. Yeah. But the investment, you just keep bringing them together and keep investing in them, and it's that family time that really makes a difference.
Yeah, and I think having someone to moderate the arguments and the fistfights and things like that helps. I think if we just let them to their own devices, it would kind of be a mess. But they all grew up and they argue and they fight and whatever and all that kind of stuff that boys do. Yeah. And then 5 minutes later, everything's fine, And we make sure we're there, that everything doesn't go too far, that they're still, but we're always laughing together and doing stuff together. Like Joy said, we have a calendar, a family calendar that we schedule things out just because it's so hard to get everybody on the same page.
Sure.
Especially as they get older.
Yeah. To make sure that we're doing stuff together as a family because we really love each other, all of us. So we like being together and just continually fostering that through a young age all the way up. And it's, again, when they're older, it's harder. But
can we talk a little bit more about that calendar? Mm-hmm. So what your guys are very involved in the church. You two specifically in different ministries and together. The boys are really involved. But then how do you also balance outside of church activities that they're going to be in and the family time? What were some of the priorities that you had or building blocks? How did you manage all of that?
Well, when it comes to outside of church activities, one of the things that we probably could have gotten more caught up in just because we're a big sports family is the sports schedule type of thing. And we kind of, we kind of early on, it wasn't necessarily a decision like this per se, but we leaned towards, as the years went on, saying, pick a sport and like we'll do it and we'll see how it goes, and like, you know, rather than like 4 or 5 different sports all the seasons, and it fit with their personalities and what they wanted. For us, it was relatively easy. There were not arguments about that.
And if you don't know this, these guys are major Brewer fans.
Yes, absolutely.
Major.
Absolutely.
Huge.
So of course they all pick baseball. Yeah, right. You know Brady. Brady's not a sports kid, so like
he did play baseball for like 2 years.
Because he had to, because we made him. We said everybody has to play organized sports for a couple of years, and Brady, as soon as that deadline, he was out. That was it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that and
how would you balance that in church, in church activities? And
I mean, I really feel strongly that they need to be here, and so like I look back to my own life, and in middle school, like I loved baseball, and it was coming up on high school, and I knew I could make the high school baseball team. But when I started going and looking for tryouts and stuff, I knew that it was practice all week, and it would cut into the Wednesday time when I had youth group, which was really, really important to me then. And so I knew I just wouldn't be able to go anymore. And so my mom and my dad left me the decision up to me, and I made the decision that it was just too heavy of a price. And so I just didn't want to miss out on all the relationships I had at church. And so I made that choice. It was a great choice, one of the best choices I ever made. But we applied that the same way. We said there are limits to this, and we can't have it where it's cutting into church time and taking us away from being here regularly. So that was the big thing for us, you know.
And that was from when they were little on, you know, because Jordan and Nathan were on a team together, and they would have to be there on Wednesdays. And they even said, we don't want to be a part of this because we're going to miss Royal Rangers.
That was pretty cool. They made the decision. They were young and they decided,
we don't want, you know, and so we found a different league that didn't, you know, they didn't have to be there on Wednesdays. So I think it's looking around too and seeing when they practice, when the games are, before you jump in and say, let's be a part of this. Because there are a lot of options out there that aren't necessarily on Wednesdays or on Saturdays.
And that's not an easy thing. I mean, there's probably people listening that it's like, I have kids that are really, really great at sports, right? And they're super passionate about it. And that's a really tough balance. I understand there are really tough decisions to make inside of that.
But you would, I mean, from your own life and from your boys, you would say the choice was obvious, that this was the better way to go.
I feel like you're never going to regret making church a priority. I think that there's just eternal things that are planted there, and you look back on it and say, yeah, this could have worked out maybe differently, but I'm glad that the foundation stayed strong, and that I was around people who believed the way that I believed and like encouraged my faith.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I am very, very passionate also about sports over church. And if you haven't listened to the interview with Rick and Teresa Sink, when we talk about their story where it was reversed, that their kids went all in on sports, and their kids were very, very talented in sports, but they see just that they're not going to make that same mistake for their grandchildren. And so just see this pattern over and over again with kids that are growing up loving Jesus, that are successful and doing well. The church is the priority. And it's not just because they're in the building. It's that they're connecting with people, right?
Yeah.
They're involved. They're serving.
Absolutely.
They're getting the word in. There's consistency to it.
Yeah.
Well, and especially in the teenage years, you know, because that's really when, if you're not there, you lose out on the friendships, and you can kind of feel like you're on the outside. And so when you're there, then you can make those important friendships, and then Pastor Steve, you know, can pour into them and help them, you know, grow in their walk. And I think that if they're not there, they're going to miss out on both of those.
Absolutely. What are some like values that you really passed on? Were there any like catchphrases that you guys had, or taglines, or really important things?
We didn't have our Herbst catchphrase, did we? Did we have one?
I can't think of one offhand.
I don't think so. But yeah, like one of the main, kindness, I think, is a big one. Being kind to people and to each other. We've instilled that since they were young, and be like, hey, you treat people the way that you want to be treated. And you know, that thing that you just said, how do you think they could have taken that, right? Or how do you, and like we work through it and talk through it together. And then not only outside, but between each other as well.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you know, that wasn't the right thing to say, because that, you know, you think you're being funny, but that can come off this way, and different things like that. And trying to exemplify it. So like we treat people with respect, and like we encourage people, and you know, when people wrong us, we forgive them and we move on, and those types of things. So kindness has been a really big one for us, like teaching them to be kind. And then I'll say this, we were talking about it a little bit before, but I know I'm doing a lot of talking right now, and then I'll give it over to you. But God's faithfulness too. I was thinking about this before. When you're a kid, there's part of what security is like knowing that you've got parents that like shield you from all the stress, right? Yeah. That, hey, I don't have to worry about it because they got it and everything always works out. And pointing to God for that in their lives and letting them be a part of that when they're young, I think is really important. So, for example, hey, mom and dad are stressed right now because, we got our washing machine needs to be repaired and we got a car repair and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And it's stressful right now. We're stressed out, but we know God's got it, and you'll see on the other side, and they've seen it. You see how God provided for us, and just continually reminding them of God's faithfulness so that they've grown up in an environment of just like a kid with a parent. Hey, they've got it taken care of. We know that God has it taken care of. Yeah. That He is faithful. Yeah. And they can point back and look at when they were kids and be like, yeah, we didn't always have everything, but like God always provided exactly what we needed. And I saw mom and dad like sometimes stressed out, but they always took it back to God, and God always worked it out. And just that continual example, I think, is going to benefit them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and being open with them about things like when you do something wrong. As parents, we're not perfect, and so sometimes you get angry or you say something that you discipline when you shouldn't have. And so going to them and just being honest and saying, you know what, I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. And just that apology, and them knowing that parents can mess up and parents can apologize, that leaves room for them to then model that as well and come back. And like when something goes wrong, they can say that. We hear that in our kids, and it always astonishes, even as teenagers, like, hey, I shouldn't have gotten mad, with it. I'm sorry for that. And seeing them do that, and that comes from us doing that and us being honest and open about that too.
And conflict resolution in a relationship too. We've always, been open. They see when we're disagreeing about something, or mom and dad were arguing about something, but they also see us come together and make a decision together and forgive each other and do it in a healthy way. So we've always been in our parenting just like, this is who we are. You see who we are. We're out there. We don't like hide this from them. We want them to see how to do life by example. Yeah, as best we can. Yeah.
Now, boys specifically, boys can get a little, like they look at ladies sometimes, and that it seems a little bit more ready to go more than girls.
Sure.
And so, I mean, your boys you have one son that's dating a Sosa girl at the time.
Yeah, there you go. There's
the perfect connection. But just watching them, observing them, it seems like he treats her very well. How did you navigate that? How did you lead them through teenage years of being a boy, and helping them be on a successful path?
You were really good at that, as far as living by model and explaining what we look at and how we shouldn't look at women. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah. I mean, treating women with respect as equals, I think, is the first thing. And so part of in any guy's life, right, learning to beat that and all the stuff that's out there is looking at them as, God's creation, as a person and who they are. And so modeling respect for women from a very young age is like super important, I think, in all of that. Not as objects, for us to look at or anything like that. That's not what they are, right? And so we institute things in our house too. So we have filtering on internet filtering. We've always said that this is like, there's certain things that just flat out are not allowed. And no matter how old you are in this house, it's just not allowed. And so, hey, if you get this device, it's going to have this software on it. That's the way it is. Too bad, Some of that is just rules in place, right?
That's good.
And just having been a guy, like, I know how teenage boys are, so I know all the tricks right, a little bit. And so I can watch them and just make sure, and keep an eye on things and make sure things are going the way they should.
Well, and talking it through with them about accountability and how important that is, that you have that accountability in your life, so that if so that you don't fall off and start watching things that you shouldn't or doing things that you shouldn't. And the software allows, provides that, but then also why we do that, so that even as adults, you should have that accountability. You should be thinking about this and making sure that you're safeguarded in that way, so you don't.
And it's tough. So for anybody listening, for teenage boys, it's one of the hardest things because there's just so much out there. And it's so readily available, and that's so difficult. To deal with. It's just to try and protect your kids from that. that's one where really the instinct comes in that I have to shield them, right? We talk about that, but we also want to show them the reasons why and help them to see things differently.
Mm-hmm. Can you share with us what software you guys use?
So for a while we've used Circle. It's called Circle, and they have like a device that we hook up to our Wi-Fi in our house, and so the Wi-Fi gets routed through there, and so all traffic kind of goes through there first. And you install this little Circle app on their phones, and it filters. You can set up different age filters or customize things, like you can put certain websites in or take them out and things like that. And that's like, a base layer, I think, that covers the really bad stuff, right? And then like for Apple now, their screen time stuff is really, really nice.
Yeah.
You can see which apps they're using and have discussions about that. And like, hey, is that healthy that you spent this many hours on YouTube today and this week and whatever? We have a lot of those, right? And that's just, these are layers, right? Yeah. But in all of it, you can't just set it and forget it. You have to be engaged. You have to be talking.
I think that's key.
You have to be watching.
You can't just trust the software alone.
Yep. Yeah. Because number one, they're going to find ways around it. Everybody does. And then number two, have the discussions of why. Because otherwise, if it's just about the block, like we talked about in the previous stuff, when they get out on their own, it's going to be a big free-for-all.
Yeah.
Well, now I have it all opened up to me. Yeah. So, this is why, and this is what we protect our hearts against.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When did you guys let your boys have cell phones and make that decision?
That's so hard. We have one that really wants one right now.
It moves, yeah, a little bit.
It was.
So Chase wants one and does not have one.
Chase wants one but doesn't have one.
He kind of has one. He's got a device. It's like
he doesn't have data or anything.
It doesn't have data on it.
It's not
it can work on Wi-Fi though, so it's kind of the same thing.
Sure.
But yeah.
But usually around high school, 8th grade, high school, I think is when we decided
right around
that they
there.
could try it.
Yeah.
Now it probably could have been earlier. I know some people do it for convenience. If they're in sports, it is a lot easier to get a hold of them. So I understand that. I think if that were the case, it might have been 7th grade or that we would have probably gotten it for them as well. So
yeah. I know that's one of the things we haven't experienced quite as much as maybe some, where they don't come home and be like, hey, all these kids at school have this device here.
Sure.
So for us, it was early teenager. Brady would complain. He'd be like, you made me wait till I was 15, and Chase has something that more than I did when he's 13. There's all that.
Or that's why you can't get Chase's cell phone, because I had to wait.
Yes.
I had to be 18.
Yes.
And I got a regular flip phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's helped you guys decide, now it's okay for you to have one?
What do you think?
I think their age and how how mature they were. We saw kind of where they were at, and then we would even have those conversations. We're getting you this, but this is how we expect you to use it, and these are the things that we want you to stay away from, and this is why we're putting that on, and kind of when you can trust them, and I think you can give them a little taste of that, like this is the phone, and then you watch them and see how they do, and you kind of get a feel for where they're at too, and
understand the reasons, right? So like, so-and-so wants to play Roblox or something like that, right? That's a different story, and different things like that, just making sure that you're watching what they're doing, like which apps they're using, and then how much time they're spending on it too.
And you can limit that, which has been really good. I mean, even with our kids with school, their phones will shut off at a certain, not the adults, but the younger ones, their phones will shut off at a certain point, because always they'd stay awake till too late, in the morning doing that. Having those conversations too, like, hey, we noticed that you spent this amount of time on this app. Let's talk about that. That may not be a good thing, even if it's just Roblox. What else are you doing? But why are you doing this? Yeah.
Right. And again, it's like we're navigating it. It's tough with everybody. It's one of the toughest things. It's really hard, especially when you have teenage boys. It's just a whole different thing, and there's just so much. And so you just pray all the time, and like you watch and you keep the conversation open as much as possible. Yeah. Just talk about it.
And
all the way
nothing,
through.
We've made it so that there's nothing off limits to talk about. We've really had that open communication where it's like, hey, let's talk about this. This happened, and what did you think of this? And are your friends? And we just left that open so that we can have those conversations. Sometimes the uncomfortable ones, sometimes the ones that you don't want to have but are really important. Because then they know that they can come to you with those things rather than going to other sources. Yeah.
And so there comes the part where maybe, if there's something going on that shouldn't be, it's not like, hey, you just lost your phone for a year, type of thing. Because then they know to hide it more, right? They learn. but that, hey, we have this discussion and I love you and I forgive you and let's make better choices going forward. And have that kind of a conversation when it comes to that stuff is usually a little bit more beneficial.
Yeah.
So they don't feel like they have to hide everything,
Yeah. That's a case-by-case scenario.
It is.
Child-by-child scenario. And
Absolutely.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But really has been great. I am really grateful. I look forward to raising my teenage boys. Now I feel more equipped.
It's an adventure. It's an adventure. There's something new every day.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
So as we kind of round out this episode, kind of the final question be to Jamie. The podcast directly is most directly to our members of our church, people in our church. And so as a deacon, as one of the top leaders of our church, what would you like to share? Is there anything you would like to share with families of our church, especially with those with boys, but just overall to our families?
Yeah, I'm not sharing it as a deacon so much. So when we raise our kids, they're deacons' kids, but I don't tell them, hey, because you're a deacon's kid, you can do this or that or whatever. They're just kids. But I think probably when I see some of maybe the things that we've talked about in here. Trying to just keep the family together when you do stuff like do ministry and do church and together, right? Mm-hmm. Talk about your relationship with the Lord together. Don't have it be like a separate thing, like, oh, hey, this is just a day of a week where I drop my kids off and move on or whatever. Them seeing you and making it a team, a family kind of thing. Sometimes I'll see like on Wednesdays, right, where kids get dropped off and there's really cool ministries here and then the parents aren't really involved and don't know where to fit. And I think sometimes there are really cool things that we can do here at church together. So we've got Christmas coming up where there's like volunteers and like the whole family can be greeters, or things like that. And you just make it fun, something we do together, something we talk about together, I think is a really big deal. I think that there endless opportunities to raise your kids in a cool environment and then build your family up together too and make it more fun and like start those conversations about your faith and different things like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Yes.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for checking out this episode. Hopefully you heard some things that really got you thinking. You got some ideas to take back to your boys and to your household. We're believing that God's going to do great things through your boys, that your boys will become godly men that change the world. And so we'd like to pray with you, pray for your boys, pray for your family, pray for God's blessing over you. So let's pray together. Lord, thank you so much for this time together. Thank you for the wisdom, for the experience that the Herbst got to share with us. Thank you, God, that their boys are doing so well. And Lord, those of us that are watching or listening, we want our boys to be successful. We want them to love you, to be good socially, to have great relationships, to serve well. And so, Lord, I pray that you would help us to do that. We pray for the hearts of our boys, that their top priority would be to serve you, is to please you, to do things your way. And Lord, I pray that you give us wisdom. I pray that you remind us of these things that we've heard today. And Lord, that our families would be close, they'd be united, that our church would have strong families, and because we're based around you. Thank you, Lord. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, thank you again so much, Jamie and Joy. This has been so fun. I can't wait for Brady to watch this.
Thank you, Pastor Josh.
Shout out to you, Brady, and Chase, and the rest of you guys. But hey, I want to encourage you, if this was helpful to you, if you enjoyed this, and if you know some other families in your life that have boys, and they would really benefit from this, I encourage you, share this with them, let them know. Really, we just want as many people to know about how to raise good boys that have a thriving relationship with Jesus as possible. And I also want to encourage you, check through the back catalog of past episodes. We cover a lot of topics about how to read the Bible with your kids, how to pray with your kids, how to talk about tough stuff. School is starting now when this episode's coming out, and we've got episodes about how to start the school year well, so check those out. Hey, we're rooting for you, we're praying for you, and we're believing the best is yet to come. Hasta luego, and goodbye.